Not all pots need to be trimmed, but if you're going to trim, before you start, ask yourself, what do I want this foot to look like? Am I going to have a vertical foot ring? Is it going to flare out? Is it going to be very narrow? Is it going to be very tall? Have these in mind before you start trimming, and make sure you know how thick your base is so you don't pop through the bottom. If you do pop through the bottom, maybe it's a flower pot. Go ahead and center your piece. You can use the rings on the wheel for guidance. And when you're just starting throwing, it might be hard to tell if your piece is centered because it might be a little wonky. If that's the case, do your best. Try to find an area maybe near the bottom where you can check that the piece is in contact with a needle tool or a finger all the way around. And then go ahead and draw a foot just with a needle tool. See, this is where a foot ring would be. And ask yourself, do I like where that foot ring is in relation to the rest of the piece? Does it look stable? Does it look aesthetically pleasing? Once you have that, go ahead and secure the pot to the wheel head with some clay. And hold the pot in place so you don't knock it off center while you're putting the clay on. You want to apply these clay wads with a little bit of force in this direction. You don't need to go super hard. Be careful if your pot is still a little wet. The best time to trim a piece is when it is leather hard. So do not trim bone dry pieces where dust is flying off when you trim. Ideally, it would feel a bit like cheddar cheese. Say you don't love where that first foot ring was. You can always smooth it out and make another. Getting rid of that first line will help you visualize your next ones. So this first line is the outside ring of my foot. I'm going to remove all the clay to the right or on the outside of that ring. The next ring is the inside ring of my foot. So I'm going to remove most of the clay in here. I'm going to try to make this area of clay about the same thickness as my walls. So if my walls are about 1/4 inch and my foot is about 1/2 inch thick, I'm going to remove 1/4 inch of clay from in here. So I'm making sort of vertical ring that the piece will stand up on. It's pretty common to have like chunky edges from maybe cutting this off improperly, or it was like a little messy when you took it off the wheel. These will throw you off, so it's good to sort of manually smooth them out first, just so they're not catching your trimming tool and causing bumps. There are all sorts of trimming tools you can use. These are called loop trimming tools. This is a trimming tool by Mud Tools, inspired by Korean or Japanese trimming tools. Try them all out, see what you like. So let's remove the clay from the outside. Like with almost all of pottery, keep your limbs secured to your body so you're nice and stable. Just very gently apply pressure. If you push too hard, the piece will grab your tool and mess you up, so just gently smooth down. You can see with my left hand, I'm applying a little bit of downward force with my index finger that helps keep the piece in place. And this is just about as dry as you'd want to trim, so we're getting little scraps coming off, but it's not dust. If you've got dust coming off, please stop trimming. That dust is dangerous to breathe. You can smooth the piece off with a wet sponge instead. So I'll usually sort of bounce between the inside and the outside, slowly refining down to my final shape. It's worth compiling a sort of reference board of different shapes you like for feet. So many things are possible. Some people will cut little notches in their foot to help with drainage when you're washing a bowl. The foot really changes how the piece is used and how it looks, so there's lots to experiment with there. Some people will trim all the way down the side of their bowls or their vases or whatever piece they're working on. Some people just do the foot. Welcome to experiment with all the options. And it's worth tapping as you go down in the middle. Get acquainted with how the sound changes. Eventually you'll be able to know how deep to go just by the feel of that tap. Don't tap too hard that you go through, but the sound will increase in pitch as it gets thinner. And eventually you'll be able to hear and feel when the piece is done. Until you can do it by feel, there's nothing wrong with taking the piece off, looking at it, putting it back on if you need to. Just be wary of over trimming and popping through the side or through the bottom. I sometimes take my fingernail and burnish the bottom of the foot so it's nice and smooth like that. Happy trimming.